Hey, it's your guy Ren. Welcome to Cinema Slime, the podcast for film lovers who can't stop talking about the movies that move us, confuse us, or just make us want to yell at the screen. I'm joined, as always, by my brilliant co-hosts Harrison and Scott. Let's go.
How was your 4th of July?
My 4th of July was pretty solid. We went to my brother-in-law's house. He does this, we basically buy a bunch of Hot Wheels. We duct tape a bunch of Piccolo Pete's to the top of them. We stick them in this gutter track and we race Hot Wheels with fireworks.
That's pretty rad.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. That was my first year doing it. And you know, like you do it and it's like 40 minutes later you're done, but you're like, that was still pretty fun. Like I don't know, it's just a fun little activity. And then after that, we I don't know, we were being very antisocial, so we were like, maybe we should just stay inside. And Nicole was like, no, I know if we get up and go to the neighborhood party, we'll have fun and we'll have a good time. And I was like, okay, let's do it. So we all suited up, went over to the neighborhood party. Neighbor Jeff throws on this big fireworks show every year, and he's always trying to like suss out where the cops are and and all this stuff. But he brought over a bunch of Washington fireworks, as he calls them, and shot them off. Had barbecue, you know, just kind of the normal neighborhood party things. But no, it was fun. Had a great time. Kids loved it. Charlie was just like ecstatic over every single firework, just jumping up and down, just laughing and smiling the whole time. And I was like, all right, this was all 100% worth it.
So we all went down to St. Helens, which I like kind of have an inside joke with just myself that St. Helens sucks, but went down there and it was actually really nice. It was fun. the little town, we went down to the downtown part of it, and they had live music and like people everywhere. It was really cool. Got some food beforehand, and then when it was funny, the kids we were with, they had this desire to be as loud as the fireworks were when they were like going off. So it was like extra loud. I've never seen kids do that in my entire life.
Dude, kids are absolutely wild. I remember one time, I don't know if it was you and me, but I was on a job working on this car, and there was this like screaming, like this really loud ruckus, like screaming, sounded like a battle was going off in the corner, like people dying and swords fighting and everything. And I literally went up to the guy I was working with. I was like, hey, what is that? Like, what's that noise over there? And he was like, oh, it's just the recess. It's the elementary school over the fence.
What's that cacophony? What's that battle? What's that terrifying children screaming?
It was absolutely bonkers. I was like, there's a difference between like seeing kids at recess and having fun and just hearing it. It is a whole different experience. So
Little creatures, little beasts, animals.
Yeah, so we went down to my parents' house, you know, mostly just we've done the same thing for forever, but we played Cube. That was great.
Nice.
Got to bust out the high quality Zelda themed Cube set that Ren made me like 6 years ago, something like that. And I was like, I'm still so happy that I own this.
Well, some backstory. I'm not just a great guy. We draw names every year, and we have to we get to do a homemade Christmas gift for someone that we draw names for. I pulled Scott's name. I forget how I got the idea. I think Paige, Scott's wife, my sister, gave it to me. But there's this. Is it Norwegian?
Yeah, something like it's definitely Scandinavian game.
Yeah, a long game. You could probably explain it more to me, but it's sort of like darts mixed with like King of the Hill mixed with it's awesome. But yeah, I made it all Zelda themed. It was really fun.
It's a really easy game to play and an impossible game to finish. Like it just keeps going and going and going. It's kind of like the perfect yard game that people just rotate through all day long, and then everyone's sunburnt. Like, did anybody win? I don't know. So it was exactly like that.
So fun fact, I actually got my Cube set out the day before 4th of July. We had a couple friends over, drinks, and played some Cube and everything. And Ren actually made me Nicole a Cube set as well a couple of years ago. I remember because I was flipping through Facebook Marketplace and some guy was selling a Cube set for like $10. And I knew Ren was looking for a homemade gift for Nicole, and Nicole wanted a Cube set. So I sent it to Ren. I was like, hey, super easy gift. Buy this. Paint it like Marvel Avengers or something like that. And Ren was on it. And so he got the double dip on that gift.
Yeah, I work to my strengths for sure. I can make like 3 things. I wanted to share something I found. We were doing some room switches, and I found this big bundle of posters that I totally forgot that I had, but I thought it'd be applicable to today's episode, or not today's episode, but just our show in general. But I just want you to marvel at this beauty that I found.
Oh, baby. Just in case
Oh,
this makes it into the episode, it's an Aladdin poster, and wow, that is
It's an original, like movie theater poster for the original Aladdin cartoon, and then I have this one, Ninja Turtles 3.
dude.
I was about to call it, oh yeah, Ninja Turtles 3, Turtles in Time, but it's not as cool as Turtles in Time.
That's so funny. That is like what I. That's so funny. They should have made a Turtles in Time movie, not just going back to.
If I'm recalling correctly, the third Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies wasn't absolutely incredible. I'd be down to watch it, by the way. But that
Heck yeah.
poster is pretty amazing. You should get that framed and put on a wall, Ren. That looks.
Yeah, the poster's cooler than poster's better than the movie, bro.
I think the problem with Ninja Turtles 3 is everything about it is amazing on paper.
Yeah,
That's the hard part. You know that would be a good little list, by the way. The poster's better than the movie.
Like and subscribe.
Guys, have you ever felt like your life is a lie? The common man, John Nada, certainly does, especially after finding a pair of sunglasses that reveal reality. Aliens are secretly controlling humanity through consumerism. This cult classic blends sci-fi social commentary and one epic alley brawl. So if you're all about chewing bubblegum and kicking ass, They Live is your movie. A loud and unsubtle call to critical thinking, urging its audience to question authority, deconstruct media, and recognize the unseen forces that manipulate our lives for profit and control. And soon enough, you'll start squinting at every billboard and commercial for the rest of your life. 1988's They Live.
I have to say, Ren, I watched this movie, then I was watching some history snuff, and I felt a little
Yeah.
squinty with the subliminal propaganda, and I was like, wait a minute. Why do I feel like I need to obey and consume?
That's so funny. Well, Scott, thanks for bringing that up, because we're talking about the slime that enters your mind, and I've always kind of known about this movie. It took me a long time to realize the obey part of it and how, like, what it meant. I kind of had a vague, probably like you guys before you watched the movie, kind of a vague understanding. But I saw this movie for the first time maybe 2 years ago, and like I knew all these things, all the messages that are like portrayed in the film, but it really brought things into context for me. And like literally, this movie like changed my life. Just the messaging behind it. Scott, as you alluded to, I have a social media page where I just go everything about history that I find interesting, but I also have like a subgenre of like horrendously cringy commercials that you find on TV that I capture. And then I have now started adding They Live elements to them. And it's funny because a lot of people there's a lot of people who they'll just comment, They live, consume, buy. Like everyone just they like everyone who gets it, everyone who's seen the movie, they just pick up on it right away. And then some people are like, obey? Like, what is the I don't understand it. I'm like, watch the 1988 film They Live. So I'm kind of spreading the word that way. Yeah, after you see this movie, when you see like commercials, they get creepy. At least that's how I feel. Like I just feel like the tactics that they use, whether it's like fear tactics or like everyone else is doing it, there's this materialistic consumer like thing that's pushed on television. And it's gotten more subtle over the years, but if you go back to the 80s and 90s, there's just it's unforgivable how like creepy those commercials can be. But yeah, this whole week I've just been curious about what you guys thought about the movie, because I know how it impacted me. I don't want to talk about myself a ton, but
So this movie, I know the basic concept of it. Yeah, it's basically all I knew. I was like, I think I've seen that clip of when he first puts on the sunglasses and he starts seeing the messages behind the messages. I've seen that one a couple of times beforehand. And I'm pretty sure like the first time he sees like what they look like underneath their skin, I'm pretty sure I've seen that face beforehand, because when it popped up, I was like, oh my gosh, it's that. Like I've seen this before. And it was definitely a little like, okay, all right, now I know what kind of a movie I'm watching. And overall, this movie is really interesting. So my reaction to the movie throughout it really changed throughout it, because I think this movie does have some, I don't know, I feel like this movie's kind of in different chunks throughout the whole film. There's like the first section is kind of just, the setup, but then there's like the realization section of it. After that, it kind of turns into this like action movie for like a very brief, like 5-6 minutes.
Like a really cheesy 80s action movie, like very quality, low indie budget.
And then the ending feels extremely Twilight Zone, extremely Alfred Hitchcock Presents, extremely like Black Mirror kind of a storyline at the very end there. So my reaction throughout it kind of really changed. And I would say probably the most interesting reaction I had to this film was the very first section. I don't know, maybe this says something about me. I'm just a straight white guy, and I don't know. It's just, but basically the first section of this movie, I was watching it and I was like, this kind of feels like a movie. The feeling I get when I watch this movie is when I invite my friends over to a board game night, and it's hard to get adults all lined up and everything, and you finally get it set up and everybody's over and you're getting ready to sit down and play the game, and then all of a sudden someone's like, hey, by the way, let's talk about that issue in local government, and let's just talk about that for 2 hours instead of playing the board game. That's kind of it kind of gave me the same kind of feeling, because I've literally had that happen before, and it kind of gives me that same feeling of just like, okay, all right, I thought we were in this for a good time, but now you're making me talk about and think about all this things that I don't want to think about right now, which I'm sure is revealing about what kind of person I am. It's definitely an interesting movie, and I had a lot of feelings throughout it.
I think it's interesting that we watched RoboCop and They Live back to back, because they're really two sides of the same coin. They're made commenting on very similar issues, and how they approached it differently, I think, was really interesting for me watching through. You know, obviously the high critique of consumer culture in the Reagan era economics. I think that both of them were really interesting in how this movie, unlike RoboCop, so RoboCop was unhinged, as you said, Harrison. This movie was not unhinged. It was like slow, and like the droning music and the long shots of showing him walking around town just like wigged out, looking at people for 15 minutes straight, you know, stuff like that. This movie's approach to that critique, I feel, was a lot closer to like the really classic dystopian books like 1984 or Fahrenheit 451, where the whole point of those books is like getting inside the main character's head and them just feeling uncomfortable, like you said, about, is the world like, am I the crazy one? Like,
I think it's really cool how, 1987 RoboCop came out, kind of touches on this. Then 88, this comes out. It's how these things have become more true as time goes on. And I kind of looked up like other movies that came out the same years as those films, and these stand out like pretty, like they're extremely different from anything else that was coming out at the time. And yeah, like you said, this kind of feels like a B movie. I don't think it was received very well. I think it was just kind of a little bit too far out there, because this is an insane movie, like literally insane. Everyone like either goes insane, or, when people are exposed to some element of the truth, they either just shy away from it, kind of like what you were saying, Harrison. You're like, I'd rather not think about it, or people just go all in. And the people that like chase the thing that they're afraid of, or the thing that's uncomfortable, they are seen as insane by everyone else. When I was rewatching this, I didn't catch this the first time, but it shows Roddy Piper's character kind of walking through the city. He's just kind of observing people. He walks by a guy who's watching TV, and he's just stone faced, just staring at the TV, no laughing, no smiling, just staring at it, and just walks right past him. He's kind of in the alleyway looking at someone else watching TV, and they're just like, oh, the fashion, and I love being seen. And these people are all being exposed to these messages, and he just kind of sits there and he's stoic, and he's just taking it all in. And as the movie goes on, you kind of get an insight into John Roddy Piper's character, and he believes in the American dream. He believes, yeah, I'm on hard times right now, but if I work hard, things will even themselves out. I'm going to come out on top because I'm not going to quit. That type of mentality. I'll just read this list of other movies that came out the same year, because I think it just gives a stark contrast to what was going on in popular culture. But Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Hilarious, entertaining. You got Beetlejuice, Coming to America, Die Hard, Rain Man. Oddly enough, we didn't know about this in '88 because it wasn't released in America, I don't think. But My Neighbor Totoro came out that same year. Scrooged, Big, Willow, like all these films. Then you think about They Live, it's completely left field, like,
Oh yeah.
so weird. And then you got like the Portland wrestler Roddy Piper as like the main star in the film, and a bunch of unknown actors at the time. I thought that was interesting because, yeah, this is a strange film that's just gotten better with time. And I'll admit, kind of watching it, the movie isn't as good as the idea behind it.
I mean, that's John Carpenter to the T.
Yeah, it's John Carpenter. He, a weirdo. Like, just kind of reading some of the behind the scenes stuff behind making the film is hilarious. But like, this is a strange film that I feel like everyone should watch at least once. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, after I got finished with this film, I was trying to contemplate other movies that were kind of like it, and the two that I came up with is The Truman Show and The Matrix. I think those are two movies that kind of have a similar message in terms of kind of waking up and seeing what's around you, but I think that They Live does something a little bit different. So I feel like in The Matrix and in The Truman Show, they do put off that message of like, you're not in a world that you're supposed to be in, or there's subliminal messages around you controlling what you're doing. Your whole life is planned out for you, things like that. But I feel like it does slightly get covered up by, like in The Matrix, like there's some crazy amazing action scenes. The world they build is really cool and interesting, and it can kind of like almost distract you from the message it's trying to put off. And then The Truman Show's got Jim Carrey in it, and it's like kind of a half comedy, but it's like really dark, and it's really good production value. There's some incredible actors in that movie.
He's so good.
Yeah, oh, it's amazing. The Truman Show is, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if it's in my top 10 of favorite movies of all time. But the thing is, like I said, I feel like those two movies, they give you the message, but it's kind of surrounded by other things that are also really awesome. And I feel like They Live isn't really surrounded by anything that's awesome, but it's very direct with its message and very straightforward. So I feel like that's why when I watch this movie, it feels weird to say that I watched it and I was uncomfortable the whole time, but maybe that's maybe that is actually how I felt about it. So I felt uncomfortable watching this movie, but with The Truman Show and The Matrix, I was entertained the whole time and getting the message. So that's definitely a positive I can give to this movie, is that it is very direct and it tells you exactly what the movie is about, like from the get-go.
So I get really frustrated when I go to watch a movie that's portrayed a specific way in the advertising and stuff, and then you get there and there's like this huge undercurrent of an agenda. You sit down and you feel like you're just watching like a Christian movie, and you're like, but this was not supposed to be, something like that. Like they sucked you in knowing that you wouldn't want to watch the thing they wanted to say, so then they instead just like bring you in and then hit you upside the head with this over and over, and you're like, dude, I feel like now I have to pretend that I care about this thing, but I don't. And this movie, I feel like, didn't do that. They're not pretending anything, and I think this has to do a lot with John Carpenter. So I didn't realize that I've seen a ton of John Carpenter movies, and I didn't know that he made any of them. Like Halloween, Big Trouble in Little China, Escape from New York, The Thing, this movie, They Live, all of those movies I've seen or know of, and they're extremely slimy and impactful on pop culture. And every single one of them, I'm like, oh yeah, that's obviously a John Carpenter movie. I think this is, when I watched this and I was doing some background research on it and the director and screenwriter, stuff like that, I was like, oh, that's a John Carpenter movie, and this movie is so John Carpenter in so many ways. Like I was talking about the slow contemplative scenes, like that's the way Halloween was, and that's what made Halloween scary as a horror flick at the time. Was, I mean, gosh, the movie was made on like $300,000, but the fact that Michael Myers just walked everywhere and it was just waiting for him to get to you was the tension of that movie. Because once he got to you, you were dead. Like it didn't matter what was going to happen. Like he would get there. You could run as fast as you wanted, like the tortoise and the hare, but the tortoise would always get to you and kill you. And this movie has a very similar slow burn feel. And it doesn't even build up and climax to like a good action movie at the end. It's just like, and like you said, and at the end, there's this action movie and they're, zipping through space and stuff. And you're like, what is happening? I guess dovetailing off of what you said, Ren, like this movie really is what it is. It was meant to be what it is. It's unapologetic. It's not trying to entertain you. It's trying to present, like, everyone feels like life's off. And I'm just saying the quiet part out loud.
Yeah, like the rat race, and everyone just kind of eats it up and keeps going with it. That's kind of the message that there's just some really cool dialogue that goes between Keith David's character, I think it's Frank. Anyways, his buddy that he works with.
Unwilling partner.
Yes, the unwilling partner. And then they have some really good dialogue going back and forth. But Frank is sort of the one who's like dude, like, why aren't you more mad about the injustice? And the main character, Roddy Piper's character, he's like, no, man, I believe in this. I believe in America. And then come to find out, he's the one who gets the whole world revealed to him through the glasses, kind of seeing the truth behind it all. I just thought that was cool. I almost thought it'd be the other way around, where Frank would get to see the glasses, could prove that he was right.
I think the climax of their relationship is actually that fight scene, by the way, which is just
Let's
Absolute-
talk about a 7-minute long, 8-minute long fight scene in an alley. Let's talk about that, Harrison.
I mean, I will say this, that fight scene, I'm watching it and I really, I think I had one moment of thinking like, oh, this is still going. Like this is still going. But I feel like it was actually a really well
Moments.
choreographed fight scene for one thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like it did kind of have this kind of symbolism of, you know, Rodney's just basically like, look, I know the truth and you need to know this truth. And I'm going to make you figure this out in any way I possibly can. And honestly, I feel like it kind of shows I mean, it's so weird, like to say, like it kind of shows how strong their friendship is when really we don't get a lot of screen time between them. Like since this movie is so short, I think it's only an hour and a half long movie.
Yeah.
But for Rodney to be like, no, I'm gonna beat this into you. That's how much I care about you. Because I feel like anybody else who'd have been like, you know what, screw you, fine. Like, I can't get this message across to you. I'm gonna go find someone who will listen to me. But he's like, no, I have to get you to see what I see right now.
It's a really cool. I think I've been waiting basically like 12 years to tell this story. So,
Go.
just kind of reading some behind the scenes stories about this fight scene in particular. But apparently, Roddy Piper, for those who don't know, one of the most famous wrestlers of all time. He was always the heel, kind of the bad guy in that world. He leaves the wrestling world to become an actor. He met John Carpenter at like some wrestling event, like early like 70s, I believe. And then as time goes on, he goes, hey, I'm leaving that industry and I'm going to become an actor. So he takes on this film, and him and Keith David rehearsed this fight scene for 3 weeks. And Keith David just kind of commented like, dude, he was like relentless. He was always wanting to work on the choreography, get it to look right on film. And like we did it for 3 weeks solid. And I loved hearing that. I worked at 24 Hour Fitness for a few years in Beaverton, Oregon, and Roddy Piper went to our gym. I didn't know who he was at the time. Like I knew that he used to be a wrestler. Someone mentioned that. That's all I knew. And he would come in there, man, and he walked really slow. He was injured, super nice, just like a super fun guy. He's always like doing this, just like yeah, thanks, man. Like he was doing that a lot. And then his son would work out there too. And I think he's a wrestler now. I'm not sure. He was trying to at some point. But one day on my lunch break, I was lifting out on the floor, and out of nowhere, Roddy Piper came up to me. And he's like, "Hey, man!" And he like kind of like started like spotting me, and he was like adjusting my like elbows. I was on like a incline bench press or something, and all I remember was him just being like, "Yeah, like get that burn, like the." He kept like gritting his teeth. He was like, "That's what you want," and he was like just so passionate about and like so into it. And I was just like kind of like not starstruck because again I didn't really know who he was, but I was just like I just knew I was just being like manhandled by a great legendary dude. Like I don't know how to describe it. Just like big hands. He was just freaking like just a big bundle of muscle, basically. I can just imagine his personality, but backstage, just doing the same thing with Keith David. And I thought that was pretty amazing just to imagine them backstage working on that stuff. And then about probably like 2 weeks after that, I was at a sushi restaurant across the street and I saw Roddy Piper's picture up on the wall and he had signed it. And I was like, holy crap. That guy, so he's like famous. And then I did a deep dive. I didn't know anything about They Live at the time, but then I like realized that I brushed shoulders with like a legend, and it was just really cool. So that's my backstory on Roddy Piper. Great guy, rest in peace.
It's better that you didn't, right? Like I saw like a YouTube short a couple of days ago, and it was just some street interviewer stopped Willem Dafoe and was like, hey, what do you do for work? Who are you? And stuff like that. The guy had no idea who Willem Dafoe was, right? And so it was like, hey, I'm Willem, you know. What do you do? I'm an actor. And he's like, oh, you in anything anything we know? Oh yeah, I mean, just look up my name. I'm sure you'll see some stuff, you know. And like just living in this world where you don't know someone's famous, you treat them like a normal human
Mhm.
rather than like starstruck, like they're up on a pedestal. Like they are human, right? But they're humans that have done stuff bigger than you, right? And
Mhm.
so you can take the lessons that they've learned without being blinded by their success, right? And so I kind of appreciate that story quite a bit. Like
Good.
I love that he was just that normal guy, the nice guy. He wasn't he wasn't the dude that was the villain in WWF, you know, or whatever. It was he's he's Roddy Piper, the older gentleman that came to your gym and helped you spot, you know, like that's your history of Roddy Piper, and you didn't need to have the
Yeah.
starstruck.
He didn't
eyes. It's
need to
pretty cool.
explain, hey, here's why you need to listen to me. Did I mention I'm a legendary wrestler? He just, just gave me some good advice and give it that girl. I thought that was cool.
He didn't die on top of the tower in
No,
real life.
no, apparently not.
Just going back to that fight scene real quick, by the way, I think my favorite part of that whole thing was when Rodney picks up that hunk of wood. He breaks the glass on the car and he's like, oh shit, I'm sorry. And then Keith David's character picks up that glass, breaks it, and it just goes to the neck. And he's like, fuck. And then Rodney starts laughing at him. I felt like that was like just a very genuine moment that could happen in a fight because your emotions are so freaking high and things are going crazy. And when you just have that moment of just like, I don't know, that part made me laugh pretty hard.
I was trying to explain this movie to my wife. So we went to like a U-Pick yesterday or the day before. I was just trying to sort through like what do I feel about this movie? And so I was just like kind of brain dumping about the plot and stuff. And I was like, and there's just this like fight in the middle of the movie. And it absolutely made the movie. It had to be there. But on paper, it sounds so dumb. You know, I explained it for a bit and I explained what you did. You know, there was like it's like this mutual respect, but they just absolutely genuinely hated each other. But 100% respected each other. And she was like, it sounds like trying to talk politics today with somebody that doesn't agree with you. Like,
So true.
it's like, I love
There's got to
you.
be symbolism behind that.
I love everything about you, but trying to convince somebody about it doesn't have to be about some conspiracy theory or something like that. It's like we just genuinely have different value sets. Like it doesn't matter what I say, you're not going to agree, you're not going to see it the way I see it.
That's so. I love that I couldn't put that into words, but you're totally right. And I know that was purposeful by John Carpenter. Just because, like, in my mind, if you put the rationale behind it, if someone was like, put these glasses on, I'd be like, okay, why? Like, sure, what? It'd be no big deal. But the symbolism behind that, I think, is so awesome because I don't know if you guys caught this, but the sunglasses are called Hoffman lenses.
Oh, I didn't.
Albert Hoffman invented LSD. So when you take LSD, you see the whole world in a different place.
No
So
way.
Yeah, so he's telling, hey, put on the glasses, and he keeps resisting this message, and he doesn't do it. Finally, puts on the glasses, gets his mind blown, and then he sees the truth. There has to be symbolism in that. That's right on. I couldn't like formulate that in my mind, but you just did that, so thank you.
That
We
is
connected
so
the dots.
cool. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I love see, it's stuff like that that I absolutely love. Little details like that. That's
I think it was funny, and I probably an artifact of just the 80s, but like the sunglasses were like just cheap plastic sunglasses. They weren't like really expensive Ray-Bans or something like that. I feel like if this was made today, it would be like, oh, this priceless artifact I'm putting on my face. But he just like throws them off into the alley like 4 times. They're just like plit, plit, plit. There's no impact to those things. It's just like
Yeah.
I think that is one of my favorite parts about the sunglasses is when they throw them or when you see them in the box, you can tell they're just cheap, like 50-cent glasses. Like even the sound they make when they hit the ground just sounds cheap. I thought that was really good. Yeah, it's just that fight scene in terms of like trying to get people to, talking to two people about two different political values. I find myself very often nowadays, going to type something on Reddit, to make a point or say something. And I type like 5 words and I'm like, what's the point? And I just delete the comment because I'm just like, there's no point anymore in trying to talk to people online about values and political things and stuff like that anymore, because it's never gonna work. Like you're never gonna. No one in the history of the world has ever read someone's random comment on Reddit and been like, "Oh my gosh, my whole world has changed. My values are different, and I'm voting for someone else now." Like
I've never heard that take before. That's amazing.
No,
Okay,
it's never
so
happened ever.
so I'm not on social media, right? Like
Go you.
on purpose. I deleted Facebook forever ago, like 8 years ago, something like that. And then I've never got on TikTok. Anything I see social media is like,
I'm on social media, but one thing that I've like, if someone shares their thoughts, that is what I do not read. I'll watch videos and like interesting media and things that people create. But when people start sharing little thoughts about literally anything, I'm just like unsubscribe,
Don't
goodbye. I don't
care.
want opinions. I
yeah,
don't want comments. I want to see something and be entertained or like learn something. I don't care what your thoughts are. I don't know. Is that kind of what you?
yeah. Similarly, I feel like as far as any kind of big media oriented companies go, YouTube's is the closest to like it's just learning oriented. It obviously depends on how you use it, but I don't want to be fed. I don't like the for you feed, the home feed. If it's an algorithm, I know that I'm being groomed to obey and consume. Like I know I work in the tech industry. I know what the algorithms are doing.
Totally.
It's just destroying humanity without like saying the world's controlled by aliens. Like we're basically controlled by the lizard people telling us to think and act in certain ways, And I just know that. So I'm not on social media. But I
Oh,
think
good.
what's really, really interesting about this commentary is how the only person that Piper got to see was based on a trust-based one-to-one relationship. And it still came out of a fight. And it kind of makes me think like, is there, how much of it is just like, we're projecting some philosophy on something that isn't there, but it's useful for us today versus, like Carpenter wanted it that way, or but I think in the end, I think it's still useful to look through Lens as a model, or look through the lessons you learn as a model to apply to your life if it's useful. And in this particular case, I think it is useful to go in a world of just like algorithmic feeds and consumerist propaganda and haves and have nots. But it really does come down to like, what's the most important thing in life? It's your relationships. And some relationships are worth breaking to like get through them across time. And some people like, how far how far does your trust go that you've built up that you can push somebody to say like, this really matters, like this genuinely matters, not just to me, but I think it matters to you, it matters to your kids, it matters to your grandma, all the people you love, this matters, and I want you to at least acknowledge that you understand. And like that matters to us and it matters to them that we push those things. That's how real change happens. But I don't know that big loud yelling at people when there's no trust there does anything. Like you said, Harrison, like, does it matter to drop your opinion on Reddit? Because you
Yeah.
self-select people that care about that in an echo chamber, and the people that don't care leave and they're like, well, I'm not going to listen to that person. So I think it really does have to start with trust.
I think when you post your opinion online, it's more for yourself than anything. You feel justified, or you feel, I don't know, it gives you like
Better.
an endorphin high or something like that. Speaking of the scene that's going on right now, I was kind of curious. Is there an advertisement or an ad that really stuck with you, or you realize it actually worked on you? You're like, oh my gosh, it's because I watched that ad. That's why I bought this thing.
You brought this up.
Mine, strangely enough, it was Carl's Jr. There,
Are you kidding?
no, I'm not joking.
Dude,
I'm not.
okay, I want to hear your story. I'm curious
Okay.
how similar our stories are.
That's so funny. So there's two commercials, and I think one of them, look, it's Kate Upton in a gold bikini eating a burger. Like it works sometimes when you're a teenager and you see that commercial, it gets burned into your brain. The second one is they had a commercial a long time where it had the same rhythm every time, but it said burger, fries, and a Coke. Don't bother me. I'm eating. And that always stuck with me. I don't know. It was a perfect commercial for me for some reason. I was like, it's so simple, and it makes me want to go eat a burger really bad because then people will stop bothering me. And what's funny about that is I ate at Carl's Jr. for a long, long time. We're driving a lot, around town all the time for work, and Carl's Jr. was my go-to for quite a long time. And I distinctly remember having a moment where I went, I ate, I ordered a burger, and I was like, you know what, let's make it a big burger. I'm really hungry right now. And I ate that whole thing, and I felt like absolute garbage all day. And then I went out and worked in the hot sun, and when I sweated, I could smell that burger sweat. And I was just like, this is so freaking gross. And after that day, I haven't eaten Carl's Jr. since. Every time I drive by it, I have this like visceral reaction to it now. I won't go there anymore. but
That's funny.
but those two advertisements actually like hit me and stuck with me. I kind of want to meet the guy who came up with that idea and be like, just so you know, it worked. You got me.
Yeah. Well, I have two thoughts about commercials. Well, one going off what you were talking about. I remember it was just in the middle of the day, a Carl's Jr. commercial came on, and I didn't think anything of it. And then I forget what I was doing, but I was driving home really late at night. I think it was like 11:30, and I was starving. And I drove by a Carl's Jr. and I just pulled in, ate it, and then after I ate it, I was driving home still, and I was like, I saw a Carl's Jr. commercial today, and I haven't had Carl's Jr. in like a year. And I like got mad at myself. I was like, I am a statistic now. It worked. And yeah, commercials just dive into like your subconscious mind. But I just had a thought about something. When he's watching people watch TV and they're just like drowned out or they're laughing or whatever. As I've been doing my history snuff commercial thing that we talked about in the beginning, I've noticed like insurance companies or like home renters insurance, car insurance, those types of companies, those commercials in the 80s and 90s were like really serious and like emotional commercials. Jump to today, they're the most random. They're just trying to get you to laugh. It's like a completely different approach to advertising. Like all the State Farm commercials are
Yeah.
just like, can I get a hot tub? And they're like hilarious and weird and random, but like they've realized it's just funny how they've shifted this different like method to like get into your brain. And like,
Geico, Flow from Progressive.
yeah, none of it makes any sense because insurance is boring, but they know that if they get you an emotion or like a laughter, that you're gonna remember it. And consequently, I remember those commercials like all the time. So next time I need insurance, whichever one that gave me like a better feeling, I'm gonna think of that company first. That's creepy. And it's just one little element to kind of what this movie is talking about. But like, dude, your subconscious mind picks up stuff whether you like it or not.
Do you guys ever buy a product and feel like annoyed that that's the best product? Like,
Yeah.
like for example, like Geico or something. Like you have Geico insurance. And you're like, I did my research, and like regardless of all of the ads and stuff, it just so happened that Geico is the one that served our needs the best.
Yeah.
But it's
And I'm
actually
like,
the best.
pissed off.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not buying this because of your ads.
Just make it clear. I'm not buying this.
I don't shop there normally, but
Kind of the opposite side of that. I really like, at least as far as I know, I love having a moment where I buy a product, like for example, like Kerrygold butter. I remember buying Kerrygold butter, eating it, and being like, "This is the best butter I've ever had in my entire life." And literally, Tillamook butter tastes like plastic to me now. And in my head, at least in my head, I'm 90% sure I never seen a commercial for it. So I feel very like genuine. I'm like, no, I like Kerrygold butter because it actually is the best, and it's not because someone told me it was the best. I will say this though, and one that definitely is kind of in my brain and it's stuck there for a while is Cadillac cars. There was a commercial that's they do all the stuff, they show you all the features, and then at the very end it says, "Do you want to buy a car or do you want to buy a Cadillac?" And that one always stuck in the back of my brain. And now every time I detail a Cadillac car, I'm like, this is probably the best car ever. Like, this one.
Yeah.
Because it's not just a car, it's a Cadillac.
Yeah, this movie, I think what's challenging for some people is like when you realize not the hypocrisy, but like when like it's telling you all these things to do and you realize that you're doing them. I took a list of all the things that are written on like either the billboards or the newspaper stand where he puts the glasses on. But of course, there's obey, reward indifference, so falling into line. Honor apathy, Do not question authority. Watch TV. Stay asleep. No thought. No ideas. Consume. Marry and reproduce. That one kind of hit me a little hard, especially you. Yeah. 3 kids. What are you thinking, man?
I don't have enough.
Money is your god. Work 8 hours, sleep 8 hours, play 8 hours, conform, down humanity, surrender. And I just love too, like almost every police officer, and everyone wearing a suit is an alien in this movie.
Yeah, I noticed that one, and I was like, that's pretty on the nose. I like it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, just going into like slimy scenes that kind of stuck with me. Honestly, the raid on the like the shanty town at the beginning,
Yeah.
that I mean, just what's going on in the world today right now. This is 2025, by the way, everybody. Like just watching that, I was just like, I think I saw a trivia fact of Piper. He was talking about that scene, and he was like, that actually hit me really hard because I was homeless for a little while, or maybe it wasn't him, it was somebody, but someone was talking about like filming that scene was one of the most emotional things I've ever gone through, because I was homeless for a good chunk of my life, and seeing that occur and living through something like that, it's really hard to experience that all over again, even if it is just made up in a movie.
Just off what you just said, there was a little tidbit I found, but Piper was reading the script, and he said he remembers when he got to the page of the scene, and it said like, fight ensues, and he turned the page and it says, fight continues. And then he turned the other page and it was like, fight continues more. And I was like, that's awesome. Because I think that's like one of the main reasons he's like, I have to do this movie. It has fighting, it has homelessness. Like,
Yeah,
I think it really
all
spoke
there.
to him. Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
What was it? I'm pretty sure he quoted as well. He said something like, "Oh, that's not just a movie; that's a documentary. That's what they live as a documentary."
Yeah,
and I was like, "Whoa, that's pretty hard hitting."
This movie's pretty violent, but when you realize that he has these rules, like he doesn't harm humans, he only harms aliens, then you can kind of, I don't know, it helps me, just the movie's more believable that way. Because if he was just losing his mind and was just rampaging and going into the bank and just shooting everyone, this movie would like really suck and you would really not care for the main character. But there's a few times where he spares humans' lives because they don't end up harming him. In fact, this scene right here where he looks over and he just double checks on who's real. He actually does a double take at Keith David's character. And then the cop that stops him, he puts his glasses on. He's like, back away. And then he does, and he runs off. I don't know really where I'm going with that, but he's a reckless hero with
principles.
With principles.
Yeah. So I think as maybe not necessarily a counterpoint to that, but maybe as a warning from that is, we live in a very violent culture right now where we dehumanize people that we don't have values, that we don't agree with their values. And I think if you get into the mind frame where if you don't agree with me, you're against me and we're going to fight all the time, like what you're doing is you're pretending that a real human is an alien, that they are not human, that they're not worth the life that they're actually living. And I don't think that that's healthy for society. That's the recipe for the entire society to collapse and turn into a violent kinetic expression of anger. By the way, this scene right here where he's going to the reporter Holly's house, he's kidnapped her and making her drive her to her house. And he says, "You live alone?" And she's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Okay, we need to go to your place." And then they come to her place, and it's this like big, huge, beautiful home. That's the first time where you're like, oh, like if you watch it a second time, you go, oh, she's an elite.
Yeah,
Like she's in the pockets of the aliens, right?
Oh,
I thought she was an alien just based on her eyes.
yeah, dude, she's
Her
got
eyes are
some
insane.
She's a
intense eyes.
very, very unique, pretty looking person.
Yeah.
Most definitely. What was it, man? When she pushes him out the window, I was so confused. Like I was like,
That is so funny.
I did not expect that. That's the only thing in this movie that surprised me. It's like her just like spinning around, bashing him in the head, and him flying out the window. I was like, oh, that happened. Okay.
No, I legit like watched that and I was like, okay, hold on. Okay, is this 80s movie reason or is she an alien with super strength? Because I was so like, what was that?
It's
Honestly,
so
like
confusing.
Yeah, so that scene shocked me, and honestly, when she kills Frank at the very end, that also was like, oh,
Dude.
like
That was
that
the
one.
only scene at the end that made me feel sad amidst the
Yeah.
80s. I was like, oh, Frank. And it was so underplayed, too. Speaking
Mhm.
of, a lesser director would have done this. I think it was perfectly forgetful. Like, I don't know if it was on purpose that it was perfectly forgetful, but in hindsight, is like if they glorified Frank's death and you know it
Mhm.
was this big like go finish or something like that, I don't think it would have had the same effect of like him like, hey Frank, turning around and there's Holly and he's like, oh
Yeah,
dang, more of the same.
Mm-hmm.
You
right.
know, like life really is terrible and we really are being infiltrated by aliens, you know?
Yeah, that
I
part shocked me. I was like, "What?" And I had to rewind. I was like, I do not remember that. And I watched it in slow motion. Yeah, it was. That totally surprised me. That part was
Mhm.
awesome.
So one thing that's interesting about this movie is actually based off of a short story, a very short story apparently,
Mhm.
and it actually got adapted into a comic book as well. Now, one thing that's very different from the short story and from this movie is in the short story, it's not clear if there's actually aliens amongst everybody. It's very like you kind of read it, and at the end, you're kind of like, he actually could have just been going crazy and could
Yeah.
have been killing people without actually knowing that they're actually aliens. Now in the movie, it's very clear that there is actually aliens. Like as soon as they go through the portal when they're cornered, and then they go in there and they see all the people dressed up talking about how much money they made and the teleporting across space and everything. It's like, okay, so there is actual aliens in this one. And then the world is actually being taken over. I'm just kind of curious, what kind of like would you prefer having that question at the end of the movie? You're like, wait, hold on, was he just going crazy or not? Like, is that interesting to you guys? Or is it like, no, I'm glad they made it clear that he actually was just killing, aliens that were taking over the planet.
Yeah, so let me take a quick stab at this. I think
Mhm.
this episode we have not done the thing that we've done with other we've been talking about the message so much that we haven't talked about like the presentation of the message. This movie is like simultaneously a masterpiece and the stupidest thing. You know, it's like all of the lines, the the perfect iconic line of like him walking into the bank accidentally and he turns around, realizes he's in a bank, and instead of going, "Oh hey, guys, sorry," and like backing up or something like an actual human would do, he's like, "I'm here to chew bubble gum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubble gum." You know, it's like what a stupid line, but it's so cult classic iconic.
Yep.
You know, like it made the movie what it was, but at the same time it's like this movie is two different things at the same time. And I think if you're going for a movie or a story that's totally cohesive, that really full impact tells the thing that you want to tell, then I think it's more important that he doesn't actually know that there's aliens. Because in that story, it's more like real life, and it's a deeper commentary on rabbit holing down a conspiracy theory that is probably true, but it's not clear that it's true. And so the onus is on you whether or not your moral actions to disrupt society are worth it, right? But in this movie, Roddy Piper has to be portrayed as like the extremely noble character and things like that for the flow to work. And I think that's one of the things that makes it so like you can cheer on, like I was talking about earlier, like you can cheer on the fact that he's blowing away aliens because it's like, it's you're playing a video game, they're not real people or something like that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's it doesn't do the Spec Ops the Line video game kind of commentary where you're like, oh, I'm the monster. So Roddy Piper is not the monster in this. The aliens are the monster. And I think offloading the evilness to the aliens and then the elites that go into it is a completely different commentary that's also good. But I think it still has to come with those warnings that like don't lose yourself in a fiction in real
Mhm.
life.
It's interesting what you said about the lines in the movie because, like, they are iconic, but at the same time, I could put myself back in '88 when this came out, and like, I understand why this movie didn't like catch on because, like, they seem kind of forced over time.
Mhm.
They've gotten better, but like, there was another line. It just feels very like wrestling, which is I don't know. Maybe it was ad libbed by Piper. I don't know, but
The bubblegum line was ad libbed by Piper.
was it?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I didn't know that. But there's another line where it just like not an actor, obviously. I think his best strength is when he's in action films and he's shooting the gun and just like I love how quick that gun moves and the way he holds it. It's like perfect. And when he's
Gosh,
mad
it's so
and when he's really
ridiculous.
passionate about something, but one of the kind of like the slower scenes and just his acting is just kind of a little bit off. I don't blame him. But there was another line where he's I think in like a little market or something, and he's got the glasses on, and he sees that lady who bumps into him, and he's like, "You look like you look like your head fell into cheese dip back in 1957." I was like, "What?" And I googled it. I was like, "There's no story behind that. There's no reference to anything." And he's like, "You're okay. This one, real fucking ugly." And it just seems like I don't know.
No, it's and then there's like you real formaldehyde face, formaldehyde face. Or
Formaldehyde
something.
face.
That was it.
Like, don't get me wrong, I love the lines, and I don't want this
Oh, yeah.
movie to change in any way. I wouldn't say that it would be better if it was polished. I think it's like, I mean, it's just a John Carpenter movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think this movie is almost perfect the way it is, and like kind of like you said, Scott, it's like I don't actually want to change it. But if I went back in time and I sat down with John Carpenter, I'd probably tell him like, "Hey, this movie could be 45 minutes, 30 minutes. Like I feel like it could be like a short, like a Black Mirror episode kind of a thing, and you get the same message across and be able to do it, and you'd have more success." So it's like if I could go back in time and my goal was to make this movie more successful, that's probably what I would suggest. But I don't want to go back in time and tell him to do that because I want this movie to exist the way it is. That's what I would say.
I think maybe to say what you're implying explicitly, I think that the cult status of this movie is warranted.
Yes.
It's almost like this movie is on a need to know basis, and when you need to know and you're ready for it, it's there for you. And you'll be made very aware that it exists. You don't need somebody to punch you in the face to watch this movie when you're ready.
Pretty much. I just had a couple quotes that I wrote down too, just lines for the movie that I really liked. Like one of the homeless guys is watching his movie, watching the TV, and the guy is on there talking about like there's aliens coming and everyone's being controlled or whatever. And he goes, it's just that guy licking his nuts again. That one that one really hit me. The other one that kind of made me do a double take is some gal's talking to some other gal and she says, "Blue corn tortillas are so dated." I was like, what? Like I didn't know tortilla chips could go out of style, apparently.
Obey.
Mama don't like no tattletales. That's a good one. Life's a bitch and she's back in heat. I think that is just an absolute perfect line. And I could see that being like above like a bar, just in big letters. And I don't know, it just made me laugh.
There is some good wisdom quotes too. I have two of them here. The first one is Keith David's kind of explaining the state of the world and the rat race, and he says, it's all about the golden rule. Those who have the gold makes the rule. I was like, that's cool. And
there's I'm gonna butcher the person who quote this, so I'm not gonna actually say I'm not gonna attempt to say who quoted this, but I see it often is, "If you give me control of the money, I care not who makes the laws." And it's like from the 1500s.
Yeah. There was another really 1988 part of the movie where Keith David's he's like, what are you looking at? And he's looking at the binoculars, looking across the street at the church. And he's like, I don't know, man. There's some weird stuff going on over there. Keith David's like, dude, just stop. Like, why are you trying to mess with things? Just be grateful for where you are. And like in a fit of like frustration, Keith David, he just kind of ends the conversation. He's like, I'll see you later, man. And he just like walks off. And I was like, all right. That was cool. Good way to end it. One other thing too is he's like, why are you doing that? And he goes, the white line in the middle of the road is the worst place to drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like pick a side, man. Like don't like I thought that was cool.
That's pretty deep, actually.
I wish that had been slimier, because when I heard it, I was like, oh, it's so good. And it was so like teed up and set up, and he just nailed the delivery and stuff. I also want to talk about the soundtrack. Okay, there's a couple of things that I learned about John Carpenter that I didn't know. First thing is that John Carpenter is kind of a autodidact kind of guy,
Mhm.
Renaissance man, that he wanted full control over the movies. He did his own composing, self-taught musician. So, the really iconic theme at the beginning of Halloween. That's John Carpenter wrote
Yep.
that. He also wrote the music in this movie. I think there's really one song, and it's that like weird, slow, droning, like
Western.
No, honestly, like I feel like if that song was playing around me at all times, I'd be way more badass just like throughout my day. Like just
Yeah.
be way more serious.
No, if you were to fully score this movie with an original soundtrack, I don't think that it would have worked as well as the silent ambiance of the movie with that droning track whenever you needed the like, okay, it's time to soldier on feel of the movie. Like I think the soundtrack was spot on perfect. I wouldn't change anything about that. The last thing that I was like, okay, so this is based on a short story. The screenplay is written by Frank Armitage and it's directed by John Carpenter, but it's like such a John Carpenter movie. Who is Frank Armitage? And I did some research, and for some reason, he decided John Carpenter wrote the screenplay, but used a pseudonym for the screenplay credit, even though his name, like John Carpenter's name, are in the opening credits like 5 times across a whole bunch of different roles. As the screenplay writer, his name is something different.
Why?
But he wrote the screenplay and directed it and did the music. And so this is like heart and soul 100% John Carpenter movie. But why? Why did he do that? And I'm just more and more interested in this dude and his independent spirit and his gritty take on social commentary and stuff. His minimalist approach to movie making.
John Carpenter would be a fascinating person to interview. I mean, I guess I was reading something behind the scenes, but like while they were filming this, he like paid to have like a satellite installed so we could watch like every NBA game. Like he's like a basketball junkie and like obviously drug use and like just he's really far out there and like kind of brilliant in ways. But I just love that he wants to tell a story and he just goes through with it no matter what the cost, whether it's lying about who wrote the film or composing half the music or all the score or whatever. I think that's awesome. I didn't know that. I thought the original writer for the short story, I thought that was John Carpenter. But you're saying he's the Frank Armitage is a fake person or like a that's so crazy.
Yeah, fact check me in the comments, but
no, I just did. You're right. In fact, on Letterboxd, it doesn't say Frank Armitage. It just says John Carpenter.
So yeah, I would say, man, this movie is very difficult for me to rank because I feel like I'm having a very similar situation when we watch RoboCop, where when I finished the film, I was very low on this film. Like, I think Detroit Rock City was better. I thought RoboCop was better. And so this movie felt like a 1.5 to me. Like I really did not enjoy it that much. But it might end up being one of the more slimy films I've ever watched, just because the more I thought about it and the more we talked about it, the more things I saw for it. I think let's see, how do I say this? I feel like the film has problems, like just from an entertainment standpoint. I feel like it's very dragged out. Like I literally think this movie could have been 30, 45 minutes and it would have gotten the same message across and just been a better movie overall. So I would say that I'm glad this movie exists. I think people should watch it. For me personally, I'm glad I watched it. I probably will never watch it again. And I think another kind of metric I use in my head is if I'm hanging out at a friend's house with a couple people and they say, hey, let's throw on a movie. If they suggested They Live, like, hey, let's throw on and watch They Live, I'd probably be like, let's watch something else. Honestly, that's probably my gut reaction to it. I'd be like, there's just better movies to watch. But I would say everyone needs to watch this film. So where does that land for me? Personally, I think this is like, it's so impossible to rate it on a 5-star rating. It's definitely not a 3, so I'm gonna say it's a 2.5 out of 5 for me.
I know exactly how you feel because the first time I watched this, I was like, so that movie is like what everyone's talking about. But as time's gone on, I guarantee you the same, at least part of this will be true for you, but I guarantee you for the rest of your life, a little bit of you is going to think about this movie at least once every day until you die. Like
No,
I'm dead serious. It's going to
I
infiltrate the way that you see things.
well, it's just difficult because okay, like maybe this is showing my privilege as like I said, I'm just a straight white guy living in America trying to, raise my family and things like that. But I feel like Holly a lot of times, sometimes where like at the very end, she's basically like, "Hey, they've already taken over. Just deal with it and live with your life." I definitely have days like that where I'm just like, there's all these insane things going on, especially nowadays. And I definitely feel a little privileged that a lot of these things aren't happening to me or my family. But yeah, this movie definitely made me just think like, hey, maybe you should be thinking about these things.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
maybe it
yeah.
should be on your mind. And you should make sure you go out and vote. By the way, everybody listening, you should be voting in your local things and, on the national level, all that good stuff. Just saying. Sorry, I know we're doing reviews, but really quick, I really did a very, very big double take when they went into that meeting and they were like, all right, it's the year 2025. And
Yes.
I
Yeah,
was
that's
like, wait,
awesome.
what? Like, Ren, did you know
Unintentional.
that? Like, did you
No, I did not.
subconsciously know that? You were like, this is set in 2025. We have to do this movie this year.
No, no, it was totally, yeah, total
That blew my
serendipity.
mind.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think more than anything, it just raises awareness. And yeah, like when you look at it from a film aspect, like based on all the films we watched so far, like it probably is the worst, like constructed, pieced
Hmm.
together film. Not to say there aren't awesome parts of the movie, but I know exactly what you mean. But just like I said in the beginning, it's like the message is greater than the filmmaking part of it. If that makes sense. I like it all. I think it's gotten better the more times I watch it, but I know exactly how you felt after the first viewing. But then like I found myself just continually thinking about it. And I remember like yesterday, it wasn't that long ago, but I remember it very clearly. But like the day after I watched it, I was watching my kids watch TV and I got this really creepy feeling. And I was like, dude, aliens are real. This movie is a documentary. And like, I think I went on like a 24-hour like rampage in my mind to be like, this is actually really believable. Like, this is creepy.
I,
And
dude, I just
yeah, it's
imagine you
haunting.
running through your house with like a golf club and just breaking the iPads and breaking the TV, and you're like, I'm not watching
Yeah,
anything anymore.
yeah. And here's what I've learned. Like I want to implement all these rules. Like, let's get rid of the TV. Let's do that. It's impossible. Like you can't do it. You can't hide from it. You'd have to move out of state into a completely different territory, and that's just the way things are. So you're right. We kind of do have to just accept things. But like, if I see a commercial, I'm like, damn, I really want that. I'm gonna be like, wait, I just got played, and to be aware of that, I think it can only benefit you. So okay, so to my rating, I think at first time I watched it was same like 3.5, 3.5. Yesterday I edited it and it's a 5 because these are my ratings of how it moves me and how it changes my life for better or for worse for some movies. But I love this movie. It's a 5 out of 5, and I get all the criticism. I understand it, but if it wasn't a 5 out of 5, I'd be lying. That's just
Yeah.
how I feel about it. But yeah, like if you're at a party, I'd probably recommend it, probably more than you, just because it's fun and the fight scene is hilarious. And
Yeah.
everyone should see it once. But yeah, it's not
Yeah.
the best movie. It's just great.
Yeah.
I don't think that I can rate this movie. And I think it's not as a cop out, but I don't think I can do it justice. Because I
I'm
think
so glad you just did that.
I think I think the metrics are just different for this. So I think that this is the most art movie we've watched so far, and I think it's hard if I'm being really honest about how I feel. If I go to an art gallery and I'm walking around and I'm looking at these different pieces of art, I'm like, oh, it's in an art gallery, so therefore it must be a 5 out of 5, whether I understand it or not. Like that feels hollow just as much as going around and going, well, that's a 2 and that's a 4 and that's a 5, or whatever, based on
Totally.
like a bunch of critiques. Like if the art does the thing that it was supposed to do, then it's important. I think that's as much as I can say. And this movie did the thing it was supposed to do. And I think it's important. I can nitpick about modern standards of what a film should be or not, or how impactful or unimpactful I think different lines were in conveying a message I think he was trying to convey. But in from a more holistic perspective, I think that this movie just did what it needed to do. And I think its cult classic status is a testament. Like I said last time, I think time is a really good recommender. And this movie has continued to be sticky and slimy for a reason. And I think that it's impactful today because of the reasons it was made then. And I was uncomfortable. I think uncomfortable because I wanted it to be different things and for the message it was conveying, et cetera, et cetera. I think out of all three of us, I'm definitely the most conspiracy theory out of us three kind of person. Like
No,
I just,
Scott, no.
so like it's not like this message was new to me or anything. I just think it was portrayed well. Like, maybe as a counterpoint, I read Fahrenheit 451 when I was in middle school, and I think Fahrenheit 451 was my They Live experience. And I've thought about that book, which is a very similar message, portrayed very differently, but a very similar message, and has the very similar consumer culture critique and things like that, and people just being brainwashed or controlled or pacified by the media they consume. And so that's shaped who I was. And so this movie was like, oh, look, there's another really good piece of pop culture that also says the same things. So I don't know that this movie like heavily impacted me in that regard, but I think it was really well said. And I love the phrase around the edges and the imperfect nature of it.
I guess I can make a slight adjustment to my rating. I think this is what I'd have to do. I'd probably rate it a 4, and I'd put a little asterisk next to it, and just be like,
Totally.
look, here's the problems and why the film is rated like a 2.5. But if you combine it all together, this is actually what it ends up being. So, just
one little side note, bringing up Videodrome again, but this movie, Videodrome and Network, 1973 film.
I'm hoping Network someday gets on.
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I watched it for the first time last week. And so those three films. Oh my God.
Dude, Ren, you're on a trip right now, man.
I'm in this weird TV is the devil rabbit hole.
But you know what TV stands for? The Knights of
But if anyone likes this movie, you will love those movies. Maybe like a double feature combination would go
can you
really
imagine
well.
like the Newburgh Drive-In Theater playing this and the Network as a double feature?
That'd be awesome.
I would absolutely stay up all night to watch this.
Yeah. Shout out to the Newburgh Theater. One day we need to have, maybe not that theater, but some theater. We need to have a movie that's on our Cinema Slime lists. The movie plays, and then we get up and do a panel, and we just talk about it, and we engage the audience. I think that would be freaking so fun.
That's a good. Cool. Yeah, I like that. We'll get there.
Yep. Well, great. Well, stick around. We recorded a little bit, stick around. We are going to do our Cinema Slime 5 random drawing. And last week we chose the theme, which is space. Yeah. And stick around for that. We're going to select our next 4 films that we're going to watch.
So you know what 4 films you're going to be subjected to for the next month.
Exactly. Watch along with us. It's a lot of fun. Thanks for listening. And I think that was a lot of fun. This movie just needs to be discussed, in my opinion. And I hope you guys let the slime infiltrate your brains from here on out. Because I haven't been able to get out of my head. All right, my dude. Okay. Have an awesome day.
You too, man.
Later.
Obey.
All right, we're going to transition. This is our random live drawing. Each of us has compiled a Cinema Slime 5 list of movies that pertain to a certain category that we picked. On the last episode, we did a random drawing, and the category picked was space. The ominous and mysterious and very vague category of space in movies. This could be interesting. I think the last category we picked was freaking amazing in the end. I'd say I was excited for about like 2 or 3 of the movies we picked, and I ended up loving all of them. So I'm expecting this round to go exactly the same.
It's going to be good. I just looking through the list, it's always interesting to see what you guys pick. And this was when we compiled these lists, you two actually picked out like 6 movies that were going to be on my list.
Totally. Yeah.
But you guys submitted first. So I was like, ah, crap. Okay. So I had to, so I went through, I added a couple that you guys didn't add. And then I actually kind of had to dig for 1 or 2 movies. And
As you read back my list, I might swap out one film, but we'll see. Just throwing that out there for those listening. I hope it doesn't make anyone mad, but I might change the rules because there's no rules.
Oh my gosh, these arbitrary rules
know.
that we just made up. I'll go through your list and you can kind of give us a little, just a little bit tidbit about it. So the first one you had on your list was Enemy Mine.
I watched this off of a Reddit recommendation. I cannot recommend it highly enough. You in particular will freaking love it. And I know Scott I could just imagine him cracking up at it. And I want to watch it again, so that's why I put it on there. Very it's a deep cut. I would imagine a lot of people have not seen it. Okay,
Love
what's
it.
the next one on mine? Next
one was Star Trek II Wrath of Khan.
Yeah, this is the one I might swap out. I've just heard this is by far the best Star Trek. It is the second of a series. It's Star Trek II. I believe it's 1982 or 83 or something. I'd have to double check. Doesn't matter if it gets picked or not. But yeah, I just put it on the list just because I want to be watching new movies as well. I don't want to always watch the same movie or me only recommend movies that I've seen, and then the new ones are ones you have seen, if that makes any sense. This is sort of my outlet to watch new stuff too. So
just real quick aside, how much would it bother you to watch the second in a series and not watch the first one?
I would have to look at the reviews of the first one, because if it's not worth my time, it's not worth my time. Plus, I think the second Star Trek is a different director, so a different vision, someone else's IP. It's been around for a long time. I don't think it would bother me too much. But on the back end, I'd probably watch the first one beforehand or after.
Oh, yeah. Just know I will. If that one does get picked, I'm definitely watching the first one beforehand, because my brain won't allow that. It would bother me quite a lot, actually.
Yeah, I'm all right. Scratch it. We're getting rid of it.
We're moving on.
Change it.
Okay.
I'm changing it to Nope.
Nope. Interesting. Oh, I know which one you're talking about, actually. Okay, I'm putting that down on your list.
Brilliant, amazing monkey paw production from Jordan Peele.
There you go. Sounds good. Next up, you have Prometheus.
Have you ever seen Prometheus?
I've never seen Prometheus. I think I know what it is, but I have not seen it.
Okay. Let's just leave it at that. Let's move on.
Let's just leave it. The next one is one that you stole right from under me. It's Titan AE.
Yeah, one of us had to.
Dude, oh my! I'm legitimately tempted to, if Titan AE doesn't get picked, I might just slide it into my list and knock something else out just so we can get a second shot.
It's gonna get picked.
And then the last one he had was Spaceballs, which I highly approve of.
Yeah, I don't have I don't love it, but I've seen it a few times. It's pretty funny, of course, but also there's a sequel in the works that was just announced. So I figured, hey, let's get ready for the sequel, because I haven't watched Spaceballs in a long time. We could all use a refresher.
Just a quick on the spot question: are you excited about the sequel, or are you why are they doing that?
No, I think I'm excited for it. I think there's gonna be lots of familiar faces. Hopefully they do some homage to John Candy, and also the comedian who does the voice for the female C3PO or CP. Yes. Yeah, what's her name? Joan Rivers.
Yes. Yep. Nope. Yeah, that would be really great. I think honestly, the fact that Mel Brooks is fully attached to it, that's the part I'm like, no. If Mel Brooks is there, I'm down for this. I don't know if he's going to survive, considering he's 99, but hopefully he will. I mean, I guess they wouldn't sign him if they weren't confident.
Totally, but either way, since it's in motion, it's gonna happen whether he makes it to the end or not, and they'll make a big deal out of it. It'll be cool.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. Okay, so those were your 5. Let's Scott couldn't be here today, so we're just gonna go over his list, and you can let me know if you've seen any of these. The first one is Inner Space. Isn't that the one where the guy goes really small and goes inside of someone's body?
Oh, that sounds funny.
That might be a different movie, actually. Now that I think about it.
Let me look this up.
For some reason, I feel like there's a movie where a guy shrinks down and he gets in this tiny little like spaceship thing and he flies into somebody's mouth and like goes
Wow.
through their body or something like that.
Martin
Maybe I'm
Short? Is that Martin
maybe I'm
Short?
mixing up that.
Oh, wait. Okay, that's Dennis Quaid. Dennis Quaid is
Yes.
also in Enemy Mine.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. I
Oh,
haven't seen or any. Yeah, I don't even know what this is. This looks
okay.
excellent, though.
Quick aside with Dennis Quaid. Do you remember a movie called Frequency with
Dude,
Dennis Quaid in
stop
it?
it. I almost put that on our list. I watched it.
Dude.
I rewatched it like maybe 6 months ago.
Mhm.
It's awesome.
Dude,
It's so
I
good.
for some reason I almost have this very distinct feeling of watching it. And I was watching it, and as a kid, I was like, I don't fully understand how this is happening and what's going on, but I know this movie is really dang good. So
Yeah,
I
it's
feel like
good.
I feel like I stashed it in the back of my head. And as an adult, I'm like, I bet that movie is just absolute fire. Like just
Yeah.
a great movie.
I believe they've made a sequel or maybe a spin-off or something, but yeah, the 2000 version, Dennis Quaid, that one is awesome.
Primo.
Like
The next
really
one.
emotional. I was pretty like moved by it. I was like, okay, hold it together, hold it together. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah, right. Good father son
yeah,
movie.
it's a great like a father-son bonding movie. It's great.
Next up is Europa Report. That's on Scott's list. Now I've heard him talk about this movie, but I've never seen it. I've heard he really loves it though.
Yeah, I've seen the cover a million times, but never seen it. Is it Sharon
Right.
Stone? Who's in this?
Europa Report. That's a good question. Let's just do
Oh,
a
never
quick
mind. I'm thinking
little.
of something else. I'm thinking of Sharon Stone and Dennis Hopper. No,
This
not
one
Dennis Hopper.
is. Let's see. What do we got going on here? Charlton Copley, Michael Nickvis.
Right? I don't know any of
honestly,
this. I'm
honestly, a bunch of
excited.
people I don't know. Directing
Yeah.
Sebastian Cordero. Cordero. Yeah, no idea. But I've heard
Excellent.
he loves it. The next
Sebastian
one is
Cordero.
there you go. This the next one on the list is a movie he sniped out of my pocket. I swear. The Fifth Element with Bruce Willis in it,
Excellent. Excellent.
dude. Like me, me and our younger brother Cameron, we went on like a 1.5 hour just rant about how awesome this movie was while we were detailing someone's car. It was like there was just so many things that we just kept bringing up, and we were like, God, this movie's perfect. Like it's so amazing. Yeah, one of
Yeah,
my
I was going back and forth on over text with Cameron about Titan AE, so maybe he'll tune into one of these. We'll see what happens.
that is tempting. I think he'd be fun if we got a good movie like that for him.
Yeah.
And then the last one on his list is District 9, and I haven't seen this, but I've heard incredible things about it. Like
Yeah,
I've
same.
heard a lot of people want a sequel to it. So I don't know if it like ends on a cliffhanger or something like that, but a lot of people want to see another making of the movie.
Yeah, never seen it. Excited.
All right, we're gonna jump into my list. Like I said, my list got a little neutered by you guys, but I'm still
That's
excited
fine.
for what I got.
Wait,
First
hold
one.
on. I thought there was 2001 Space Odyssey. Isn't that on Scott's list?
I totally missed that. You're right. Nope. 2001 Space Odyssey is another one on his list. And I
Okay.
know that you and him went and saw this at the Hollywood Theater or something like that, and it was on. I don't know. I remember you guys went and saw it and
Yeah,
blew your
it was a
mind.
70 millimeter showing of the film. It was sold out at like 9 o'clock. It was unbelievable. And I mentioned this wager on which film was going to get picked. I have a strong feeling, and I'm not excited about it, but I have a feeling this is going to get picked. And I just want you to understand the severe weight of that film being picked on the
Dude,
show.
honestly, so looking at the list, the one
This is
thing I
not a joke.
noticed, no, I believe it. No, honestly, looking at our list, just as a spoiler for my list, there's no like Star Wars. Because I mean, I was tempted to put Star Wars on my list, the first one, because it is actually one of my favorite movies. I
Yeah.
absolutely love talking about it. It's such a great film.
Totally.
But I felt I like typed it and I was like, I don't know if I'm ready. Like that's a big
Totally.
it's a
Okay.
big like
I'm glad
responsibility.
yeah, it's responsibility. There's a lot of opinions. And also it's like incredible, but like can divide people.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a difference between like hyping what you think about a movie and then saying it into a microphone. So I'm glad that you understand the weight of picking 2001 Space Odyssey. It's going to get picked. I'm telling you, it's either that or Titan AE, maybe both. We're going to see what
Yeah.
happens, but
We'll see. We'll see.
and eventually we'll probably circle around to them if they don't get picked this time, but
Yeah. No, I'm sure we'll pop back into some of our themes. I'm keeping these lists.
Yeah.
I'm keeping track of
got
all
it.
these. So. All right, so let's just go over my list real quick. The first one I put on was Alien, the original one, which is funny because I've seen Aliens, the second one, and I haven't seen the first one. I've seen a lot of clips. I've heard great things about it. And I don't watch a lot of horror or suspense films very often. And I'm like, I kind of want to do that just to push myself into it. So I'm excited about that one.
Okay, well, let me show. I don't know what's going to happen. We'll see what happens when we do the randomizer. But Prometheus is the precursor to Alien, and I didn't know that when I watched Prometheus. I had
That's
no
funny.
idea, and I won't spoil anything. But basically, there's one little sliver of a hint of what's to come, and I was like, "Wait, what?" And I hadn't seen Alien, Aliens, Alien 3, anything. Not even Alien Covenant, none of them. And that was like the perfect place for me to I watched all of them within like 2 weeks after that.
That's
It was
so.
Yeah.
That is a really cool. That's a cool and unique experience, Ren. That's cool
Yeah.
that you actually watched Prometheus with not knowing anything about it. That's
Yeah.
and then that's cool. I like
It was
that.
a random selection. I think it was on sale for like $5, and I was like, "Why not? Whatever. It's COVID."
Yeah, right. Okay, next up on my list is Starship Trooper, which I feel like I've seen a
nice.
couple times, but I haven't seen it in 15 years easy. So I feel like
It's
a good I think it's time to watch it again. Let's see. The next one on the list is Sunshine. This has
Yeah, so Sunshine, I googled like top 50 space like themed movies of all time, and that movie was on the list.
yes, I remember watching it just kind of on a whim because actually, you know what, it was the trailer. I watched the trailer one time and it just glued in my head, and I finally had a chance to sit down and watch it, and I was pretty dang impressed with it. I can't remember the actor's name. What's his name? He's
Think
in
you've
like
seen it
Peaky,
before?
yeah, he's
Yeah.
in he's in like Peaky Blinders. He's in oh, God,
Cillian Murphy?
yeah, it's got Cillian Murphy in it, like
Yeah.
a young Cillian Murphy. So I'm pretty excited about that one.
Is it Killian or Cillian?
It is Cillian.
It is
Murphy.
Killian. Just
It is
no
Cillian.
K. Okay.
Exactly. And then last movie on my list. Oh no, not last one. My fourth one on my list is Treasure Planet, which is an animated movie by Disney, and it's just a really cool aesthetic. It was kind of in this era where Disney was putting out like just more unique things and more like bold choices. And I felt like this one it just really stood out. It's basically what's that? I keep thinking of Muppet Treasure Island. It's Treasure Island, but it's in space. And it's a pretty good one.
I saw that in the movie theater when I was for my birthday one year, and I remember like not remembering anything about it. So I'd be down to watch it again, give it another shot.
And then the last one, this is kind of my wild card because, like I said, you guys kind of took all my big ones. But it's a movie called Outland, and apparently it is a remake of a movie called High Noon, and it's got Sean Connery, and he's a cop on Mars. I was like,
sold.
yeah, no, honestly, that's kind of the way I was. I read it, and I was like, okay, well, you can't go wrong. So, like, I might as well put it on the list.
I was just noticing we've covered a lot of 80s movies. 80s is not underrated, but like I'm really enjoying this era of film that we've been watching lately.
Oh no, it's
a lot of good stuff.
It's a golden era, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Let's jump into these. Let's get these movies selected and let's see what we're gonna end up with. I'm ready. We're gonna do your list first, so
we're doing me first?
Yeah, we're doing you first.
Oh my god. Okay. Here we go.
Pressure's on. Okay. Get your wallet out to give money to Allie. Get her wrong. Let's see what we end up with. Okay, ready? All right. You ready for it?
Yeah.
Prometheus is the movie that was chosen for you.
Perfect. Literally perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. Happy days there.
Yeah. As we were going over that on the list, I was like, I kind of want that. I kind of wanted that one. All right, cool. Perfect. All right, let me write this down too.
Yeah.
So 1, Prometheus.
All right. let's go into Scott's list. Here we go. I think he's going to be happy with this one, I think. All right, for Scott's list, we are going to be watching the Europa Report, which I know nothing about, but I know Scott just absolutely loves it. So I'm excited for it.
Beautiful.
Let's take a look at mine. Here we go. We're going to come up with mine. And looks like we are going to be watching. Wait for it. Okay, there we go. No. We're watching Alien.
Yes. All right.
What
Perfect.
what a
Okay,
lineup right
wait.
there.
We can do this, but let me just think about something. So there's Prometheus, Alien Covenant. Wait, is there a third? Hold on. I got to figure this out. Alien films in chronological order. Okay, so it's Prometheus, Alien Covenant, and then Alien. Okay, so I had that right. I guess we could skip over Covenant. Yeah, it's all good.
Mm.
Okay,
We can,
Alien.
we can just read
Perfect.
a summary.
Perfect.
Okay, sweet. So we got our everyone's got their own individual picks, and I think we got a pretty sweet lineup. I'm excited for what we got
It is incredible.
set up here. And let's see. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to be combining the list, and we're going to do a random drawing from all the lists. So someone's going to get the double dip here, which is pretty good. I think I've double dipped, and I think you've double dipped.
Don't
So-
be 2001 Space Odyssey.
It was close. It does come from Scott's list, and it was right next to it. We're watching The Fifth Element for our fourth movie.
Oh,
And
nice.
I am so excited about that. Oh
Heck
man.
yeah, dude.
I actually feel like I double dipped now because like I said, that was gonna be on my list. That was one of the first ones I
Yes.
put on there. So I'm really, really excited about
The
that.
Fifth Element. Oh man.
All right, we're getting deep into the lore of Alien, apparently. I guess I'm gonna have to do a little crash course on him
My
on the whole
God,
thing.
I'm so excited. I'm excited for you. Actually, I kind of wish to go back to what we were talking about. I wish that you didn't know it was an alien movie.
Well, I'll see if I can scrub that from my brain, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are no aliens in it, so it just
Mm.
sort of ties into the whole storyline and everything. Actually, dude, I'm telling you, it's gonna make Alien even better.
Okay, so we'll probably just do it in that order. Actually, the order that we just randomly drew, we'll just do it in that order.
Yeah, let's do that.
Awesome. Hey, cool. It was awesome doing that random drawing with you. I got to get to my kiddos and make sure everybody's happy and settled in for the night.
All right, man. Thank you, and yeah, I'll be talking to you soon. Have a good night.
Awesome. Night, man.
Later, bro.
Bye.
Bye.